Yeah, and he also had a story of how he was a scientist in the North Pole, and he was in a caravan of like trucks that were like doing tests, and there were these two polar bears who were like stalking them, trying to hunt people that were in their huge caravan of cars. So they had four helicopters, and two of them chased these polar bears away. And then they parked the helicopters, and the polar bears came back and completely destroyed the helicopters. The very two helicopters that chased them away, somehow they recognized the helicopters. They remembered the serial number or something. And so they had to dismantle the helicopters and take them out in their caravan. And he had another story that he was like in Guatemala, like helping like victims of the Civil War, and so I guess some Guatemalans didn't like him for exposing them or something, so they shot him in the leg to scare him away, and so he like walked with a limp, and he had to like leave at that time or something. But anyway, interesting guy. So anyway, I go back to Copacabana, and I hang out there for another couple of days in this deserted Copacabana, and there's this one hotel that like you could rent movies and watch or whatever. And they said it was time for me to ride my bike to La Paz. So I ride my bike and I go over some big trail, some big hill to over the south side of the lake where you pay some guy to take a little ferry across, 100 meters across to the other side. But I was riding I ride my bike up the hill, and I had to like weave in and out of these like stones that all the campesinos put. But I was on my bike, so I was free to go anywhere I wanted to, whereas all the other tourists were kind of stuck in Copacabana until this week or 2 week long like strike was over. But I did go by another group of like rocks, and I look up and I see like 50 campesinos on top of a cliff right above me, all with rocks above their head. One guy raises his hand like he's going to throw me, and I'm like, whoa, hold on, no, I'm just a dude. And then he kind of puts the rock down, and I wave at all of them, and they all wave at me. And then I rode by, and then I do that little ferry thing across, and I ride across, and then I'm riding across San Plano towards La Paz, and I see that the whole road is just packed with people. It's just all these people on bikes, no cars. And I ride alongside some like 50, 60-year-old Indian guy who's like, yeah, I'm riding my bike because I have to, because all of the trucks, all the buses, the bus drivers are on their strike, and so I have to get to work anyway. And he claimed he was riding 60 miles each way or something to work. I mean, he probably didn't understand what a mile or kilometer was, but it was still pretty impressive. And then I'm riding down the road, and I look over, and there's like nobody for hundreds of meters in front of or behind me. And I look over, and I see this Indian kid, this Incan kid, on his back with a backpack on, so his head is tilted back. And apparently he was riding his bike, and he got an epileptic seizure and fell off his bike, because he's like, all his blood is coming out of his mouth. It's because he hit his face when he landed. And he's all like sheezering, going, but he was choking to death. He was like swallowing his blood and his tongue, and just couldn't breathe. So I jump on my bike and I grab him and I pull him on his side. And so he's allowed to start breathing again, but he keeps shaking for another few seconds. And then he stopped shaking. And the weirdest thing, like I was like, are you okay? Are you okay? And he was not able to talk. He just like looked at me and just like looked past me for like a bunch of minutes. He was just like this. And then I noticed a few hundred meters bike behind me that there were people on bikes, and the bike people finally came up and they got off their bikes, and I told them that this kid like had an epileptic seizure or whatever, and so they like grabbed him and kind of whatever. So then I took off, but and then I rode my bike into and then right when I got into La Paz, that's where the cars were actually still driving. So there was cars driving, and then I rode my bike, and then I'd heard about La Paz. La Paz is probably the most visually stunning city on the whole planet. Whoa, 423, are you crazy? Because it's like, there's the Bolivian Altiplano, which is at like 13,800 feet, like almost 14,000 feet, I think it is. Just the flat, like, it's too high for any trees to grow. That's how high it is. And that's where Tiwanaku is, by the way, which I guess at the time was kind of maybe in the south end of the lake or something. It's maybe 20 miles south of the lake. And it's these huge stones. It's just kind of like Sacsayhuaman, gigantic stones that are all, and there's a huge block of stone that you can actually see a photo of that's like, I don't know how heavy it is, 20 tons or something. It's like 6 feet by 5 feet by 5 feet, placed on top of these other huge, gigantic stones. And inside of them, they have like iron hooks that hook them together. Nobody knows how it was built. Nobody knows how they could have had a civilization that was strong enough to drag those stones from who knows where. That at that altitude, whatever. It was the aliens, I think, but whatever. I don't know. So anyways, yeah, but I heard about, but anyways, you have this antiplano, and then you look towards it, and then you see these big mountains behind it. And on the other side of the mountain is the jungle, which is way down below. But so like you have no idea that there's a city until you get right up to the edge of like almost a cliff where it just drops down, and in the bottom of this really steep valley is this huge megalopolis with skyscrapers and everything. Huge city. Just trippy to look down at, you know, like, whoa, da-da, a city in the middle of nowhere. It's kind of like that movie, The Phantom Menace, and they swim under that lake, and there's that, you know, there's that, all of a sudden there's that megalopolis, you know, on the bottom of the lake. So then I ride my bike down, and it was like down to a riverbed, which originally was a river that went through this valley, but now the river is completely underground, and you have absolutely zilcho trace of the river. It's just where the river used to be. It's just this super, you know, central road. And then, you know, farther down, the river pops out completely black with shit, you know. It's like the sewage system or whatever. It smells bad, but anyways, I went down there and I got a hotel room, and then this other guy who I knew kind of showed me about this other hotel room, which was closer up. And up on the side of the hill. And it was interesting. You walk up and down, like there's the road on the bottom, and then on either side, and especially on the western side, you walk up and the road's like this steep, you know. And this is like, you're talking 13,500 feet. So even if you're acclimatized, you're out of breath walking up and down these roads. And, you know, they had even homeless people sleeping on the streets, literally, at that altitude through the winter. I don't know how they survived. And old people, too. There's like this 80-year-old lady living on the street, and she looked miserable. I gave her an Incan llama jacket, which I think it looked like she needed, and it looked like she appreciated it. And then I tried to take a photo of her, and she's like, no photo. And I'm like, oh, hold on there, sister. I just gave you a jacket. So she's like, okay. So I took a photo of her. But like, I got a hotel room that was right on the witches market, this little alley where the witches market is, and where they sell all sorts of crazy shit, like bobcat skins. Even though bobcats are endangered and illegal to hunt, they use them for some mystical, superstitious thing. And they only were selling it for like $20 too, pretty cheap stuff. But they had all sorts of trinkets and such, and they like make little fires to burn. Maybe that's how they got rid of their trash. I don't know, but I should have talked to them. I should have interviewed them. I just wasn't that outgoing at the time. Maybe I was still reeling from being so high so long. But it would have been interesting to see all the stuff they did believe. But I did pay some guy to do a tea leaf prophecy for me, where this like guy who could barely even speak Spanish. A lot of those Indians, they're Aymara and Inca, and they speak their native language still, and they're more than Spanish, so their Spanish is really broken, and they only talk in the present tense and such. But he gives me this. He like looks at the organization of the tea leaves, and he tells me that I was going to have money problems or something and something else, but I don't really remember. Anyway, I stayed at a hotel room, and it was like $3 a night. It was like a good deal. I had a nice room. Anyway, I was there, hung out with some people. I met some guys. The guy who I met in Lake Titicaca on the sailboat, and these other two Argentinian guys, so I guess he was friends with, because he had like a restaurant there or something. We went and got some guides to take us up to climb this mountain called Potasi, which is the 6,000 meter mountain, the 20,000 foot mountain, which is a pretty hike. They drive us all the way up, and then we hike up it. And the very end of it was like this steep. We were roped up, and like it was like if you go up it, you'd almost get like, you'd almost get, what's that word? Vertigo, because it's so steep. And the very top of it, the flat part was like smaller than this room. It was just a couple of feet by a couple of feet. And there was lots of people jam-packed up there, tons of tourists were climbing this mountain, but the view was probably the most amazing view of any mountain in the whole world, because you could see to the northeast, west, the Lake Titicaca, the entire of Lake Titicaca, with Isla del Sol. You could see the highest mountain in all of Bolivia, 6,300 meters high. Mountain something or other that was way off in the distance to the southwest, which would look like a perfect cone-shaped volcano. A bunch of other mountains. Iliamani, the 6,400 meter mountain. Oh yeah, the other one's 6,900 meters. It was really hot. And then Iliamani, 6,400 meters to the south. And then you could see to the east. Oh, and then La Paz, of course, which is amazing to see from up there, down in its little valley. And then it goes up these mountains. And then on the western side, eastern side, whoa, I got to